while you mentioned these four challenges, right? Like just quickly reiterating it, it's basically reaching the right people, dealing
Yeah.
with the gatekeepers, and ensuring that you're maintaining engagement, right, without landing in spam. So
Mhm.
what, like, wanted to understand from you, how can, like, while you've built that integration with Smartlead, for people who are just or want to just focus on cold calling, right, as an isolated effort,
Yeah.
uh, how can they focus on dialers and increase their outreach efficiency?
Yeah. So again, kind of like any outbound channel, the other name of the game is volume. You want to get through just as many calls per day. And so that's basically why we built a parallel dialing feature. So you can essentially dial up to 5 people at once, and whoever picks up first, it's going to automatically route you to them. And then it's going to drop the other calls, but it'll like recycle back through them. It's not like you're just like wasting those leads. But so you're going to get through way more dials this way. I think if you were just using like a traditional dialer that just like has like the auto dialing, you'll see people maybe make like 100-ish dials a day, maybe. Um, my dialer is making 250 to like 350 dials per day in like the same period of time, just because he's using the parallel dialing feature as well. And so you're going to connect with more people per day just by utilizing this one little simple thing.
Got it. So what what would be some strategies? So for example, let's assume I'm super new, right? I've never done cold calling ever, right? What would be some strategies that you would like, which can also enable our current set of users who are attending this call right now, right?
Yeah.
Be some strategies that you would set up in place, and how would you get started with cold calling in the first place?
Yeah. So obviously it can be a daunting thing to get started in. Like everyone's a little bit scared to like pick up the phone and start dialing strangers, right? So like I would say the very first thing to understand is just kind of like the mindset block of like, yo, like your first cold calls, you're not going to be super comfortable. You're probably not going to be super confident. But it's just like anything else where you need to just go through the repetitions. The other thing is obviously similar with cold email. The data is important. You want to be testing different types of lists and testing them against each other to just find out what works the best. Like ideally, like for example, like I made my list inside of ListKit, and we were targeting agencies, and I did like for technologies, I did like HubSpot, because I made the assumption of like, oh, like if they use HubSpot, they probably are making some sort of, maybe they're using HubSpot's like internal dialer or something like that. And that assumption was like working, pretty well for me. And so you want to have a really good list, test different lists. And then, yeah, understand that, at first it's not going to be great. And the other thing is have a framework to follow. And so basically inside ZappX, you can upload a script or a framework. And so then you can look at that while you're dialing. So that way, like, you don't have to worry about like having everything memorized. And so you can basically just follow a very simple framework, and you can either find one online, you could go on YouTube, like or you could just test for yourself and find whatever works, for you specifically.
Awesome. So while I have that set up, right, could you also list out some like examples and like uh, probably some workflows that a user could initially get started with? Like some of them were like really good A/B tests that are going to be more of a hit and trial, right? But how do I refine these, let's say, lists to make sure that I'm reaching out to the right persona for my business?
Yeah. So again, it's probably similar to, when you are cold emailing, but basically I went into ListKit, I did whatever, but then in term for keywords, I did, just terms like I did like president, I did for us personally, because like we sell to sales team. So I did like VP of sales, sales manager. So it's also knowing like who you're targeting. Like, if you guys are targeting marketing departments, it might be like CMO or maybe CRO. So just making sure that you're adding those keywords into wherever you're building your list, so that way you are getting a hold of the right people. That's super, super important to do, because obviously not every business you should be targeting necessarily the CEO or the founder. Sometimes you do need to go a step down to the sales manager, VP of sales, whatever.
Got it.
Easy. I want to jump in. I did cold calling a long, long time ago as part of my first few jobs. Thought I was okay with it, but it seems like people can be a lot better. Can I ask for 3 script tips? What is going to get people to not hang up on me? You've clearly built a team that crushed it. So for a lot of us over here that are going to give this a foray into this space, we get that we know we can pull data from this kit. We've got data sources in place. What am I meant to call out immediately after I open the conversation with them, right? And how do I get them not to hang up on me and actually be interested? It's a complex question, but
Yeah.
feel free to go for it.
Yeah. So like I actually have like the kind of like the script that we use, like pull it up a little bit. So I'll just kind of like read it off for you guys to get some inspiration from. So we open up with like just saying the prospect name, like question mark. So like I would say like John, and then I say like, hey, this is Alex from ZappX. We haven't spoken before. I'm calling you out of the blue, but it'll take me 30 seconds to tell you why I called, and then you can tell me if you even want to keep talking after that. Like, does that sound fair? So you're basically asking for permission and the opener. And if they're like, yeah, sure, like go ahead. This is kind of like we call like a 30-second commercial. I got this from my buddy Dylan Rich. He's really, really good at this stuff. Like he trains cold callers for a living. So it's like, cool, thanks. So again, I'm calling from ZappX, and we work with, and then you insert like your persona. So like we work with, digital marketing agencies. Typically we'll get invited in by companies like that for, one or two reasons. And then you'll kind of tell them like what those two reasons are. Like maybe reason one is the current dialer that they're using doesn't, or is like getting them marked as spam super often, yada, yada, yada. Number two, like they don't have parallel dialing. You're not getting as many dials per day as you'd like to. And so you kind of are just going into the pain. And then, it's like, which one of those two reasons like might resonate more with you?
Fair enough.
And
It's more like just like a cold email effectively, but verbalize it, right? Calling that person as it, give them the pain points and get them interested and get the permission part. That's fair.
Exactly.
Awesome. What are some metrics we need to look out for? Like, are we looking at like call duration rate, conversion rate, close rate, number of calls made? What do you suggest people should optimize for?
Yeah, you really want to optimize, in my opinion, for just connection rate. So people that answer the phone.
Okay.
So roughly what we try to go for is like a 20% connection rate. So people that answer, of the people that answer from like that opener that I just said, about like 70% be like, yeah, like I'll hear you out. And then from there, like 2 to 5% actually go ahead and book in a demo with you.
Okay. And on that note, what is the open rate equivalent for cold calling, in the sense that what is a metric that we really shouldn't be focused on, but it's a vanity metric that every marketer targets?
That's a good one. I mean, I would say like the connection rate definitely is important, which I guess is similar to like open rate.
Yeah. But it's not
I
a true
think-
false, like a positive, like in the end, the connection and book rate, as you said, is what we need to focus towards, right?
Right. That's a good one.
We'll
I
get
think,
back to it.
Yeah,
I
that's a
know this
good
is not a
one.
practice. This isn't a practice question, so I don't want to put you on the spot. So I apologize. But someone did ask a good question. I'm only going to run to this. Where do you see cold calling fall into an email or multi-channel experience?
Yeah. So basically, like I said, we've found to book way more demos when we just call people as soon as they reply.
Okay.
And so that's where we're implementing it into the sequence right now. Is like right after someone replies, rather than like trying to go back and forth over email with them, or like especially like if I'm like managing the inbox, like I was like the first 2 weeks, like I'm doing so many other things, like I might miss a reply for a couple hours. And then like maybe they fall through the cracks. So by just calling positive replies, like as basically immediately, we're booking way more demos that way.
Makes sense. Fair enough. So just focus on, I think someone just asked you just call positive replies. So I guess that's the answer given over there. So I'm gonna just one last question for you before a question before I drop in. I don't know whether your tool does this or there's something else you can give advice on, but for people trying to do inter-country calls, how do we approach that?
It's tricky. It's actually very tricky because the compliance rules are so different country to country. And so like in Europe, the compliance laws around cold calling and just SMS in general are much stricter than in the United States. So for example, if you wanted to like call from like the United States into Europe, like it's tricky because you have to make sure that it's all fully compliant still. So it's kind of like a case by case basis.
Got it.
Sorry. Oops. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Swapna, on to you.
Yep. So one interesting point that Webhub did ask with this question was like, so for example, how email inboxes have a sender reputation, right? What, how does one, or how do the telecoms uh, detect spam in cold calling?
Yeah. So basically I believe it's a similar process where it's like, if it recognizes that you're starting to show up as spam, because it shows up as spam if people are basically like if people are like reporting it, right? But two, if you like, it's similar to domains as well, you should actually warm them up a little bit. So if you just like buy a phone number and then you make like 400 cold calls, like day 1, day 2, day 3, there's a decent chance you're going to get flagged, because it's just like, they're like, yo, who just bought a number and is now making 400 calls a day already? You know what I mean? So similar to a domain, you should warm it up and like start off with a few, less dials per day when you're starting off. But basically, if it starts to recognize that people are reporting it through the carriers, or that it's showing up as spam likely, it'll basically, we're working on this right now, it'll flag your number and say like, hey, this is coming up as a spam likely now, and it'll stop using that number.
So then in that case, like for example, what we recommend is you send 50 emails per inbox, right?
Mhm.
Like maintain that sender reputation. What would you recommend would be the ideal number of calls a user should begin with, like to warm up their particular phone number, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We've been starting off at like 50 a day.
Got it. Got it. Sounds good. So then what I want to understand is like, how are dialing patterns or like behavior triggers, how would you define that as spam filters for cold calling?
What was that?
So like, what would be some parameters that would act as spam filters, right? One would be the amount of, or the volume of calls you're doing, right? But are there any other discernible patterns that a user should be wary of before they get into cold calling, so as to ensure that they don't land in spam or get like marked as spam for cold calls?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is like your immediate volume. I think that is the biggest factor of like, if you literally do just go from 0 to 400 calls a day, I think the chances of you getting marked as spam are much higher. Another best practice that you could do is, there's like places where you can like register your phone number. I can actually find one of the examples here, but you can basically register and it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen when you've gotten a call from like a random number that you don't have, but it'll actually show like the business name like up top of like who's calling you. So basically that's how you do it, is you basically register your phone number with one of these services online, and it makes your chances of showing up as spam much less.
Got it. So for example, correct me if I'm wrong, right? That would be something like a true caller for us, right? Uh,
Yes.
because in India, like primarily and majority of it, like whenever we get a call from any other like if it's a marketing or a cold call, we generally know whether it's already been marked as spam or not if it's not registered. So
Yeah.
but are there any services like that exist outside? Just wanted to understand that as well.
Yeah. So I actually found this one earlier. So it's called First Orient. I can pop the link in the chat if you want.
Yep, yep. Please.
Yes, please.
But yeah, so basically you just register your phone number, and it helps you basically not show up as spam. You can, again, put your business name in. So this is something else that you can do.
Awesome.
Super
Got
cool.
Got it. So when there was also this point that Weber brought out, which made me super curious, right? How does compliance differ for like, because the compliance is like, you've got CAN spam and GDPR for cold email, right? What amount of that, or are they similar for cold calling as well?
Yeah, so there's a lot of compliance things, and like I said, it varies very much so by country. There's obviously compliance rules around like recording and things of that nature. And so we're actually working on like auto compliance features, so that way like the customers don't have to worry about it. So for example, it'll like auto record when it is compliant, it will not record when it's not compliant. And then there's also some compliance rules around SMS as well. But like I said, it's less strict in the US. In Europe is where it's very case by case. So for example, when you buy a number through ZappX right now, based off the country that you're buying the number from, it'll show you whether that number is compliant only for calling, or if it's compliant for
Um,
SMS, or if it's not compliant for SMS.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know that. Cool.
Yeah,
I wanted
question.
to sorry, go for it.
No, I said I see a question coming up. Go for it.
Yeah, the question was we'll get that answered and I have another question. When you said 50, is it 50 per day per phone number or total from like a dollar unit?
Yeah, per phone number.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet. And someone asked a question right after that is that go high level and then A2P is enough? Sorry, not my space. If you're gonna add some, you could put the full forms over there. That will really help. But while we're waiting for that, Alex, I had some question for you. I think
Yeah.
this is something again perspective to what people or I would personally want to know. One, when do I do outbound calling? When's the right time? Is there a certain persona that I need to look out for in the stage of my business? Do I start without any content in my business? Because I know with cold emailing, I need to have some sort of social presence. Does that work with
Right.
cold calls? That's question one, and I'll go into question two right after. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, it's going to help, right? Because if I say, hey, this is Alex from ZappX, and they're like, maybe I even booked the demo, but then like after I call or after we're off the phone, they look up ZappX. If they can't even find anything, they might be like, is this even like a real company that I just booked a demo with? You know what I mean? So it's definitely going to help to have some level of social presence.
Sure.
I don't think it's 100% required, but I think it would definitely be wise to have something.
Fair enough. I mean, sorry, that's a fair question, fair answer to the question that I asked. But on that note, someone's dropped in a few questions. Let's figure out the cost of this, right? For us who've not done a lot of it, and we know how much outbound costs, cold and paid ads. Walk me through the trickle metrics from how much a number costs and how much is the cost maybe for ZappX as well, and then how much do you think we should be spending time wise on revenue perspective on a per head count of team member, and what is the average? I know this is a very broad spectrum. You can be selling Teletubbies to someone and you'll get $5, but
Yeah.
what are the numbers that we should be looking for?
Yeah. So I'll use the numbers that basically we use at Closify just because those are the numbers that I actually know.
Yeah.
But so basically phone numbers are like $5. We include the first phone number inside your ZappX subscription. So ZappX is $100 a month per seat. So if you have $5, it's $500 a month. The one that we paid for at Closify was much more than that. But so basically what we figured out was we had a really aggressive hiring strategy for this, because basically what we realized is like about 1 to 2 out of 10 people you hire out of 10 are actually going to end up being a really good revenue producer. And so we had, you want to make a point there?
No, I think we lost you. Is he stuck for you, Swapna, or is he just stuck for me?
Yeah, it's for me as well.
Yeah, sorry. Alex, you're stuck for most of us right now. Oh no, you're a pixel. It's 2 pixels. All right.
Can you hear me?
No, mate, you're
But you're lagging.
you're Megatron right now.
Let's just wait for a minute until his
Yeah,
internet
we'll
stabilizes.
maybe Alex, if you can disconnect, reconnect. But yes, Swapna, go for it.
So I was telling folks, I see a lot of good questions popping up in the chat, and what I would request is stick around because we've just got one more section.
And then we'll
Quickly
Q&A.
get that over with and open up for Q&A, and I want to make sure that all of your questions are answered. Oh God.
I'm gonna move on from that very quickly. Swapna, anything that we wanted to share? Fuck, that distracted me. We've where's Alex, man? Get him back on. Henry, screw you, dude. But yes, so in terms of let's speak about Outlook, everyone. I think we all care about that. Let's wait for
go for
yeah,
it.
let's wait for Alex to come back. Swapna, if you can, no mind chasing up on him so that he's just not YOLO'd. But let's just jump into the Outlooking. So as of 24 to 48 hours ago, you would have seen the news everywhere about Outlook becoming a problem. I want to call out a few things over here. I put a post out, and this is not a flag to go ahead and like my shit. You don't need to like it. But Just so you're aware that there are some issues with respect to Outlook in the way your deliverability is being affected. Seems like there are certain tenants. If you're part of that tenant, they have flagged that tenant on both perspectives, not on the lead itself, but when you're sending it, Outlook itself has picked you up as someone who's causing a problem, and it blocks you. So you need to just be aware of that. There's a few fixes for it. You can ask Outlook to just flip your tenant. That's one option. Second option, if you're getting blocked with respect to people saying, low quality IP spam, then you can go ahead and ping their support chat again and ask them to flip your IP. This happens every 2 weeks by nature with Outlook, but you can force it to happen right now. Try to ensure that you're not sending any links and you've got all your emails in plain text. Sorry, I'm literally thinking because I had it crammed like 3 times because people have asked. Another thing someone has pointed out, Arkins pointed out on Twitter, which is a fair call. As much as I countered his point, he's got a fair call. And I'm going to just go ahead and link you all to it in terms of a potential fix over here. This is not a solution as to what I've shared in his tweet. It is something that you will see as an option to fix as well, which is basically turning off your anti-spam rules in your tenant side on Outlook. It may help, but it will not 100% fix it. A tenant is basically a workspace, which is where it's like a parent account from which you buy subsidiary accounts. So any of you over here facing issues with Outlook right now, that is the 3 things I can tell you. Flip your tenant, flip your IP, turn off your deliverability, turn off your open tracking, and ensure that if you are adding links, you add links on the second email onwards. We found a very weird pattern with links where some links it takes, some links it just straight away rejects, and sometimes it doesn't even bounce the message. It just pretends to send the message, but it goes to 200. This is, by the way, not just using anything with Smartlead. Generally, it is to do with like sending from the client itself. You can log into your actual Outlook account and click send, and it has an issue. So that's kind of where the concerns started coming in, where it was more so an Outlook thing versus like a Smartlead or any other software that exists in the market thing. We're assessing it. I don't want to give any more statements beyond that because people will make a meme out of this, but we'll give you a quick update soon. But Alex, we lost you for a second. Welcome back on.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to remember the question I asked you. So if you remember it, we'd love to carry on from that.
Yeah, I did. So we were talking about
Okay.
kind of like I was talking about how we hired a lot of cold callers at close of 5. So we would hire in groups of 10 because
Yes.
basically only about 1 to 2 out of 10 would end up bringing in sufficient revenue. And so what we ended up figuring out was after we like weeded through all the people that were bad versus the ones that were actually good, every one SDR for us that was good, that would be managing a cold email inbox, running an expanding campaign, and then cold calling, would bring in about 20 to 30K a month, which would be about 4 to like 6 new clients per month for us. And so that was kind of like what we got to. About 3 of them were normally coming from cold calling. And that was at a $5,000 a year price point. So that's like where those numbers is coming from. Like 4 to 6 clients per month at $5,000 is what that was coming from.
Okay, cool. Fair enough. So in interest of time, Swapna, I think you had one more section to go through. We'll go through that, and then I think there's like 100 questions.
Yeah, thanks, Vaibhav. This was actually more around, I know a lot of folks have like really, really good questions in the chat, so I don't want to take away too much time. So Alex, I just wanted to like quickly jump onto the last section of our webinar, which was prioritizing caller intent, right? Firstly, how do you understand and identify caller intent?
Yeah, so there's a few different things. Is one, like I already mentioned, people that have obviously replied to your email have some level of intent. The other place where this gets really important is having a properly set up CRM and having it set up in a way where you can basically measure this. And so I'm sure you guys are familiar with lead scoring. So for example, like I use HubSpot, we use HubSpot at Closify as well. And you can connect basically everything to the point where you can see if a prospect has connected with you on LinkedIn, if they've opened your emails, how many times they've visited your website. If you're running ads, you can see, how many times like they've seen your ads. And so basically from all these different factors, you can score them, right? And so then what we would do is we would have our SDRs dialing the people that are the highest lead score. And so that was one of the biggest factors, is because then they're only focusing on the people that are the most interested rather than, just straight up dialing a list of completely cold prospects that have still never heard of us.
Got it. So could you like go a little bit deeper into that? And help us understand what are some of the strategies for like,
Mm.
you know, identifying high potential prospects, right? Let's take a use case here, right? Let's take Smartlead, that example, right? If I wanted to begin cold calling for Smartlead, how would I identify high potential prospects and
Yeah.
prioritize?
Yeah. So are you guys running expanding campaigns as well?
We are now. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you would connect your LinkedIn to HubSpot. Obviously, Smartlead's connected to HubSpot. And then you would connect ZappX to HubSpot. And basically, you would have it be the like third touch point in the series. So I would assume you guys cold email first, and then you connect with them on LinkedIn. And then basically, if you could set whatever rules that you guys wanted to do. But let's say you wanted to do like, okay, like they've opened at least one email from us and they've connected us on LinkedIn. And like that deems a prospect that we say has enough intent for us to make a trigger for one of our reps to dial that person. That would be like a use case for you guys.
Got it.
Interesting. Okay.
Got it.
Got it.
And let's say now that I've identified these list of potential prospects, right? I think Webber had already covered this in terms of scripts, but how would I tailor my conversations to align with my prospects' expectations and needs, right? Like, how would that work in the way of how an email sequence works, right?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So how would that
Absolutely.
happen?
You can.
Could you just like explain that to me? I
Sorry,
just
can you
want.
repeat that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Can you repeat the question, Swapna?
Yeah. So I was saying, how would I tailor my conversations for, let's say, if I was trying to reach out to Smartlead customers, right? Or potential prospects for Smartlead.
Okay. Yeah. You mean like how do you kind of like tailor like the whatever you're saying when you're calling them versus if it was like strictly an outbound?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So you kind of just like what we do is we kind of just like almost come in with like a tonality that we're like assuming it's like a warm call. Like we're not necessarily like treating it like a cold call. We're like, hey, like this is Alex at ZappX. Like we were connected on LinkedIn. You know, we see that you visited our website a couple of times, and we're just calling to see if you would be interested in a demo. Like it's much shorter. It's just like we're like basically assuming that they're interested. And so that's kind of like how I differentiate it.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So while that's being said, Weber, do you have any other questions to add before we end this segment?
No, I mean, I think not really. But just before I give it off to everyone else, maybe the one last question I will drop in over here. Alex, maybe some people don't want to do cold calling and they want to hire someone else to do it just because they don't have the energy or the strength. What are some characteristics we need to look out for when we're hiring cold callers? We know it's cold emailers. We know the pattern, right? Like copywriting
Yeah.
techniques, research techniques, and sort of
Yeah.
stuff. What are the things we need to look for cold cold callers?
So to be honest with you, I have found like two archetypes of people that just absolutely crush it when it comes to cold calling. And I would say the number one most important characteristic, even like above like experience, because if someone's experienced in cold calling, they probably don't want to do it for that much longer. They probably want to graduate into an inbound role. But like the most important thing is literally just hunger, because like they're going to be making 200 dials a day. So it's really just important that like, you know, they're hungry. And like the two archetypes that have crushed it for me is one, any sort of like former athlete. Ideally, like they were like, you know, a really good athlete, like someone that actually really excelled in their sport, because they just kind of bring over that hard work and that hunger over. They always do super, super well for me. And then the other one is kind of like the stereotypical, honestly, like the frat bro, like the frat guy, like the guy is just, that's just like a really good people person, like the guy that everyone loves to talk to. They're just really good at being on the phones and, you know, being a cool or a fun guy to talk to, that like they're just likable. And so, you know, they're always really good at sales and booking demos just because of it's kind of just in their personality. So those two archetypes have always crushed it for me.
Interesting. So very natural personas that are extroverted and can have excellent conversations. So
Yeah.
easy peasy. All right. Now let's get those questions rolling in that the community pushed through. Swapnil, do you want to lead as to how this works?
Just one moment. So folks, we'll give everybody a chance to ask your questions. And in the interest of time and to be respectful of Alex's time as well, we limit that to one question. The way you can ask your questions is on the bottom right section where you have
One
your
question per person, right? That's what you
yeah,
mean.
one question per person. Yes.
Yeah.
And in the bottom right section where you have your react button, right? The heart emoji there. You can just click on raise hand as a feature. Keep your videos on. I'll spotlight you, right? And you'll be able to ask Alex a question, right? So all those who have questions or have asked questions on the chat, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll spotlight you and you can ask a question.
Just while people are raising their hands, I just want to put some context in. Please make sure the background noise is dropped. B, I don't think people really understand. Alex has what Trackclosify was at his peak when he exited. Like, this dude was closing thousands of deals through cold calling. So that's why I'm geeking out and asking questions, because I haven't done a lot of cold calling. So you got your question, drop it in. Honestly, he's not going to reply to you anywhere else because he's probably going to be too busy. So put your hand up, drop your question in. It's going to be great. Easy. Let's go for it.
Awesome. So we've got Abhishek first. I'm just gonna add you to the spotlight. Go for it, Abhishek.
Yo, Alex. Actually, yeah, found love the content. I love all the pictures. I actually followed you because of no code, and then I'm like, wow, who's this guy posting really cool stuff, right? So question for you, real quick, is the way I do cold calling is I'm based out of Jakarta, but ideally, I most of the people I call to are in the US, UK, or Europe. Does your solution have anything for that? Or also because some of the markets I handle are emerging, local number always works, right? So what are the solutions you have for either like a US to US call from Jakarta or a UK to UK call from Jakarta? And B, what I've seen, at least in UK and Europe, is after the call, right? You usually stay in touch with these guys on WhatsApp, which is a lot easier than sending them an email with the link, because usually people don't check that, right? So is that also possible with the numbers that you have, right? Can we register on WhatsApp and sort of work with that? Make sense? Did you get it?
Yeah. So first off, we are focused primarily on like North American phone numbers right now. We do have the ability to purchase numbers in other countries, but again, like he said, we're still going through a lot of the different compliance stuff in other countries. So we're not necessarily prioritizing that right now, just because again, there's a lot of different rules for a lot of different countries. In terms of basically, continuing the conversation on WhatsApp, there's basically two different things that you can do. Is one, when you buy a number, you can create a forward to number. So let's say if someone calls you back and you want it to forward to like your actual number, you can do that. And then the other thing that we have is we do have SMS capabilities. Now, again, it does depend on the country where the number is purchased. So like, for example, like US numbers, I know for a fact, like they have SMS capabilities. If you buy a number in Colombia, for example, like they do not have SMS capabilities. So you could SMS back and forth through ZappX, but again, it depends on the countries right now. There's a lot of compliance and hoops we're having to jump through based off of the different countries right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Abhishek.
Thanks,
On
Abhishek.
to next person.
Got Garrison next. Just give me a minute. Adding it to the spotlight and go for it.
What's up, Alex? Thanks for everything you're doing for the community, man. Appreciate you. Wanted to ask your mindset or your strategy around the reach out, just to clarify one more time, your best strategy to get the best results as far as demos booked. We sell a white label, go high level software. So that's what we're selling. And so you said briefly that you would do maybe it was you or maybe there's one of the other team, a cold reach out email. And then from that cold reach out email, those are the people you would cold call. So is this cold reach out, LinkedIn, Facebook interactions sent out, people that reply in, those are the ones you're cold calling? Is that kind of the best strategy for best results?
Yeah, absolutely. And it also depends on the current level of volume that you're doing though, right? Because like, let's say you're sending like 10,000 cold emails a month, like you're probably not going to like have so many replies that like you're going to have a ton of numbers to dial. Whereas like, I was talking to the list kit guys, like if you're sending 10,000 a day and you're doing all these other things, like you probably will have enough like replies per day to keep some of your SDRs busy. But like that is like what gets us like the best percent in terms of book demos. But again, the other thing to consider is just like anything else, just volume. Like you want to get through as many, besides the personalized ones, you want to get through as many dials per day as you can. And that's where like the parallel dialing feature comes in handy.
Thanks, bro.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Garrison. Just give me a minute, removing you from Spotlight, and we've got Joseph next. Adding it to the Spotlight, and go for it.
Hey Alex, appreciate your time here. Thank you, Smartlead team. Also, this is just a quick question. When you're doing like cold email outreach to people and you get interested replies, and you're looking to kind of warm call them briefly after, how do you like transition? Like, do you call them and just say, hey, like we were talking via email, or like, what's a smooth way to kind of transition from the email to the phone call there?
Yeah, I mean, exactly like what you said. We literally just like, hey, we literally just emailed you. Like, you literally just replied. Rather than going back and forth over email, we just thought it'd be easier to give you a quick call and, figure out when we can pencil you in this, when you have 15 minutes this week.
Thank you, Joseph. Cool. We've got Jordi next. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Adding it to the Spotlight. Go for it.
Hello, thank you. Hello, Alex. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your knowledge. I have a question. What are the top 2 things that you have learned about the world and human nature after doing so many cold calls?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. Obviously something that I've learned is like there's always a way to like get your way in the door. There's been a lot of people like, basically pushing past no's. Like a lot of the times people want to very quickly like try to dismiss you and like you're just like another annoying cold caller, spammer, or whatever. But there's always a way to like turn someone that's like not interested into interested. And so I think really it goes back to just like one, like leading with value as well, because it's like, for example, there's been times where it's like, oh, like maybe we can make an introduction for someone. So like we'll follow up with someone after maybe they said no or something. We're like, hey, like we can make this intro for you. And then they're like obviously super open to it. There's a lot of like other little ways that we like try to provide value and do other little things, but it really goes back to effort. It's like if you actually like want something enough, it's like cold calling is a great way to teach you that like one, like volume and effort, and then also like providing value. You can always get someone to at least hear you out.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordi. One moment. Jordi's done. Cool. We've got Aaron next. Adding you to the Spotlight. Go for it.
Hey Alex, what's up, bro? Just a quick question. I was actually gonna ask like how do you deal with like rejections or people who are not interested? Like what will be your workflow? But I guess you just answered that. So I was just gonna ask like do you prefer cold email or cold calling?
Well, I mean, what's so amazing about cold email is how scalable it is, right? In the sense of like you can literally just like buy more domains, create more inboxes, buy more leads, and increase the volume, right? With cold calling to increase your volume, you need to add more dialers, right? You literally need to like hire more people to like make the dials. So what's so amazing about cold email is what I just said, like the pure volume that you can scale to like very, very easily. And then all you need is like an inbox manager. It can be very, very simple. So like I would never not do cold email. It's like it probably is the best way to get like your first clients. And it's super affordable as well. I just think it's foolish for anyone to not do both of them because it is going to perform better. And I think it's also foolish to, like we talked about earlier, to not do them while posting some sort of content on the internet to have a social presence. So it's like they're all like content's great by itself, cold email is great by itself, cold calling is great by itself. But it's like if you do all 3 of those together, like it's just simply going to perform better.
Yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. But Alex, before I add someone else who's next in the pipeline, I wanted to understand what is the difference in terms of the closure rates that you see when you combine cold emailing and cold calling together?
Yeah. So we're on average booking anywhere between 25 to like 50% more by calling the replies ASAP than we don't if we try via email.
Alex, you've become Megatron again, man.
Uh-oh.
Painful. All right, can we? Yeah. I'm gonna bring myself back up.
Yep.
Alex, can you say anything?
Yeah, can you hear me at all?
No. You probably need to go bye-bye and come back again. Oh yeah, Alex, you could just turn on the video. It's at Miami Internet. Yep, that's where it is. All the money spent on Lambos, nothing on fibers. Cool. While Alex is there, and we got the 3 hands up, we'll just wait for that. Any questions for me regarding Outlook and spam on Outbound or Swapnil for that fact? No, no one cares about me. Fine, that's all right. Cool. We got more people joining. We'll get more people in. We'll help your memory. Thanks, man. How many emails can you send a day per account safely? Less than 50. I know you're trolling me. About 40-ish. Is it going to be temporary? Should we wait to kill attack accounts? Wait for a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks, and then, yep, I reckon bomb them and move towards Gmail for the moment. Or private SMTP networks. You know, I'm not going to name them, but there's like 100 of those third-party SMTP tools that offer for it. So there's a lot of them. You can give them a crack, in my opinion. It's their time to shine from the looks of it. But Outlook will be back. There is no 2 ways of denying that they will be back. They 100% will be back. So just give them a moment. How many emails can you send a month with 200 email counts? 200 to about 40. Jordy is what kind of aim for. You can do a lot more, but let's go with about 8K.
Ideally, you have 20 for warm-ups from the 50 limit that you have, and the rest 30 are being used for cold emails. So you can send 30.
Perfect. Yeah. I smashed it. Did you say go to Zoho Mail? No. I said go away from Zoho Email. How many? Yeah. So I think what Swapnil said was about. It depends on.
That's 6,000.
Yeah.
6,000 cold emails is what you can send per day. 30 per day.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. What is the good positive reply rate and booking rate? Look, it really depends on the offer and the activity that you're trying to run for. If you're trying to optimize for clicks, obviously it's going to be a pretty shitty answer to give you there. But some people hit 40% positive reply, man. I don't know how to give you the answer. Like, even I'm shocked when I see it. The offers are really, really good. I think we're just someone who just posted on Slack some pretty intense numbers right now. So, but obviously that's on the good side of it. But I'd say aim for about 5 to 7%.
Also depends on what industry you're in and what kind of persona you're trying to target, right? First, significantly. But anywhere between 5 to 10% should be your ideal benchmark to target for. And the more you keep on optimizing and going niche, you'll see better results. So as Weber mentioned, we've seen people get like 40 to 80% positive reply rates, right? Like that's insane.
Yeah. And to add on to what your point was, we'll wait another few minutes to see if Alex is back.
Yep. I just made 1 minute. I'm just
all right, easy.
Co-host.
Cool.
Alex,
I'm gonna become.
if you switch on your video, we'll just give it a quick nod. If not,
his video's on. His video's on. He's right there.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. My bad. Let me add him to the spotlight.
Cool. I have now gone from the main piece to the side piece. All right. Bye. Sorry, I removed Alex. Alex, I'm sorry. Wait, sorry. At the spotlight. Okay. I go bye.
Cool. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So Alex, just wanted to understand. So I'll just repeat my question for everybody here who missed it. It was, what is the reduction in turnaround time for lead closures that you see when you combine cold emailing with cold call?
Yeah. So I would say it shortens the sales cycle by a little bit just because we're getting them like booked in as a demo faster. But like the main piece that I was hitting on before I lagged out was that we're booking like 25 to 50% more demos by just calling that positive reply like as close to immediately as possible rather than going back and forth over email. Or again, there possibly being a delay because I'm doing something or when my inbox manager is doing something, they're missing it for a couple hours.
Got it. Cool. Okay. I apologize in advance. Your name wrong. Boyan. Is that correct? Awesome. Nice. Okay, cool. I'm adding you to the spotlight. Go for it. 1 minute. Go for it.
It's okay. What's up, guys? Thanks for the knowledge share, guys. Thanks, Alex, for your time. Question around, okay, I know we don't do business in America yet, maybe one day, but right now we focus on UK and Europe. So I guess for cold calling, what is the best like sources of information so that I know how many laws I'm breaking when I do start calling these people? I'm going to break them irrespective. I just don't want to be ignorant because I want to just call UK and Europe. So I guess who should I follow for getting good content, and what's the best data providers for European data?
Yeah. I'm assuming, I'm assuming ListKit has European data. I'm using ListKit and I've been having pretty good success with ListKit's data. In terms of all the compliance rules, again, it's so different country by country. So I don't want to give you any one like source of truth of like what to follow. But that's why we're slowly working on auto compliance rules. So again, that way, like you have to worry about it less, and like our software will, help you stay compliant. But yeah, I don't want to give you like one source of truth. But if you need to if you were gonna look it up for like one specific country, like I would do that. I would honestly do like a Google search and do it that way.
Cool. Happy.
Thank you so much. Just one moment. Nick, can you switch on your video so that I can add you to the spotlight? Awesome. Cool. Go for it.
Sorry to unmute. Thanks, guys. A couple questions, actually. I'm going to fit them in real quick. Just wanted to know what would be, I know you mentioned ListKit as being a top data enrichment. Is there another one that you recommend? And then what would be the frequency that you call a lead to until you actually reach them in contact?
Yeah. So I've only used ListKit thus far. I probably will, I might still test Apollo just to run a split test. So we'll double dial people. And if they don't pick up in the first two dials, we don't like necessarily like delete them, but we're then moving down the list, right? For the most part, like, and I don't really try to just like call a lead as many times as possible until they pick up. For the most part, I kind of just like move on. And then again, we focus on the ones that show some level of intent. So I would say if you dial someone 2 times and they don't pick up, like don't go breaking your back, like trying to get like that one person to answer. I would say volume is more important.
And then what about follow-ups previous day, like the next days? Would you continue to call them every couple days or?
To be honest with you, like we're really just trying to get through as many numbers as possible. But for example, like I said, with the parallel dialing, it'll recycle back through them. So you can call 5 people at once, you can call 3 people at once. But let's say, for example, someone answers, it drops the other calls. It'll recycle through those other numbers. So they'll probably get called a couple times in the course of a day. But outside of that, like we're not trying to call the same people for like a week at a time, for example.
And sorry, I'm gonna squeeze one more in. Are you integrating any AI, conversational AI?
Sorry for
agents?
that. We're limiting it to 1 question per person because we
Apologize.
Sorry for that. If you want, you can drop these questions on our Slack channel for officers, and we'll have Alex answer them for you. Thank you. Cool. We've got Henry next. Just wait, please. PG-13.
What's up, Alex? How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. My question was basically, as far as actually like booking the call, what's the protocol? Like after the prospect agrees to hop on a call with you, do you then just start like reading off times till you find when it works? Do you like text them a booking link? Like how do you actually go from agreed prospect to call?
Yeah, so once they like agree to a time over the phone, we'll just ask them for their email and we'll manually book them in through Calendly or through our HubSpot booking link on their behalf. We don't send them, if you send them a link or things of that nature, you're probably getting some drop. So we just book them in manually.
Okay, great. And then do you try to get them to accept the meeting like on the call, or you just book them in manually?
Exactly.
And then...
Exactly. Like so you just put it in, you should get an email in a second. Just go ahead and hit accept. And then like, we'll talk then.
Great. And then once they're accepted, then bye-bye, and then meet them at the demo.
Exactly. And if you want to like send them, if you want to send them something to like review before the demo, whatever, like, case studies, testimonials, you could like SMS that over to them, etc.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much. That really helps.
Thanks, Henry. Cool. We've got Vitaly next. Just 1 minute. Go for it.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Thank you. I deal with a lot of executives, C-level, and they're like, do you find that works at the higher level, like CEOs of mid-sized to larger size companies, or is it usually lower end?
So it doesn't only work for lower end, but as you start to, target higher or bigger corporations, it's like I said, you're most likely not getting through to the CEO then, right? You're probably going down a couple levels. You're probably talking to a sales director. You're probably talking to a CMO or a CRO. And there's normally like, it's obviously a much longer sales cycle as well. There's more hoops that you need to go through. Like, for example, we were talking to like a very like corporate company the other day, and it's like, they need to run all their softwares through like security tests, and there's, a bunch of like compliance issues that they need to go through. And so there's a lot more hoops for you to go through as you like go up into those bigger companies.
Thank you.
Thank you. So while there are a lot of people who are asking questions on the chat and not raising their hands, so I'm going to ask it on their behalf. So the first question, Alex, is what do you do to increase the show up rates from the meetings you booked while cold calling?
Yeah. So we have like your pretty standard, like your flows of like email and SMS reminders that go out, 24 hours in advance and 1 hour in advance. Besides that, something that I have all of my salespeople do is I also have them manually email them the morning of the meeting and just be like, hey, just confirm you're still good for this time. And sometimes we'll also have them like call them the morning of as well and just be like, hey, this is Alex again. I'm just reminding you that we have our demo again, at 3 p.m. today. So between those things, like our show up rates, pretty solid. We normally get about 70%.
Awesome. Cool. One more question. How many parallel dialers would you recommend?
How many power dialers would I recommend?
Parallel dialers.
Oh, parallel dialers.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do up to 5 at a time. So me personally, I like doing 5 at a time to get through as many calls per day as possible. But again, I'm just my kind of thesis is again, it's as much volume as possible right now.
Awesome. Again, I think Aaron, that should answer your question. Should I focus on quality, research, outbound, or generic volume? Right? Like again, if you have parallel dialers, you can reach out to volume and try and convert as many people as possible. Right? Another question from Jan. Would you use third party to do cold calling or in-house? I mean,
if by third party, if you mean like hiring like some sort of like sales agency or a call center, I personally do it in-house.
And why so?
I like to have like full like oversight into like, what's happening, and like I like having control over my company as well. And it's also just like it's like what I know how to do. So for me, and I also love to like talk to the cold calling team and like hop on the meetings with them and get them fired up. So it's a part of the business that I also personally really enjoy. So that's why I do it.
Okay, cool. So folks, in interest of time, 2 more questions, no more. First question, is the double dial one right after the other, or calling them today and again tomorrow? This is asked by Joshua. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one right after the other.
And the last one, any groundbreaking AI technology simplifying cold calling we need to be aware of?
Honestly, not really in my opinion. So I don't know if you guys know, but AI cold calling is actually illegal. Like outbound AI cold calls are illegal. So you can't even do that. I know there were some companies that are doing that. So if you are going to use AI for any sort of like calling, they have to like have opted into something, I believe. Because again, it was ruled illegal. But there are some cool use cases for AI in cold calling. Like for us, like we use AI just to transcribe and then to summarize your cold calls. And then based off of that, it'll give you like a sentiment of like their likeliness to like close or book a demo. So for example, if they say like, I'm interested, let's book a demo, it'll give them like 100%, like a little green smiley face, like next to their contact. Whereas if they're like, hey, like I'm not interested, like don't call me again, it'll like score them like basically a 0 and say like, do not contact.
Got it. Alex, do you have time for 2 more questions?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there are like a lot of people who are asking about AI calling, right? So I'll cover that first. And Jan, if you want, you can just pop up your question right here. I'll ask that right after this. So there are people who are saying, it's who said it's illegal, AI calling is illegal. There is a different opinion on it. Could you like just like brief us about a bit more on that aspect?
Yeah, so you would have to go and read the article. I believe it was the FTC or the FCC. It was one of those, but it was one of the 3-letter government organizations that came out with an article and said that like you cannot do outbound like AI calls Uh, uh,
Oops, we lost you there, Alex.
and again, Nick's saying that's false. You could go ahead and find the article. Can you hear me
Alex,
now or no?
there for a minute. Could you just repeat what you were saying?
Yeah. So one of the government organizations, either the FTC or the FCC, they published an article a couple months back that was basically saying outbound AI calls are illegal. From what my understanding was, and some of my other buddies as well.
Yeah. So actually, thank you, Nick, for sharing that. He's popped the link there. So yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Cool. So one last question for the day. Thank you, folks. This is by Jan. How much would you expect to pay someone who will be already trained to do cold calling, and this is for full time, right?
Yeah.
How much do you expect someone to pay for that?
It depends a lot on like the price of the offer that you're selling. For me, I'll normally pay a flat rate per book demo or hourly. And then a percentage of the deals that they set that close. So for example, maybe it's like $50 for every demo they set, and then an additional 5% on every deal that closes. Again, those are rough numbers, and it like very much so depends on what the ticket sizes of what you're selling, how many dials per day you expect them to be making. But that's like roughly what I do.
Got it. Cool. Folks, sorry, in the interest of time, we would have to cut this short, but here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm dropping the link to join our Slack on the chat, and Alex is there on our Slack. So you can reach out to him and he'll be able to answer your questions for you. Sounds good, Alex?
Cool. Sounds amazing. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining another office hour session. And we'll be back with another interesting one next week. So keep your eyes open.
Bye.
Bye, folks. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.